So this makes sense when you think about the fact that the Aurelia is hard countered by the Renekton, right? In the laning phase, you can very much bully her out. So they pick that to also deny the pick they were formerly banning. But here, LNG will go fine. You're leaving Aphelios Thresh open. We'll happily take those.
So it is a change. I mean, Aphelios has been that first pick for EDG each and every time for Viper. LNG thinking about the second pick, though, whether they want to go jungle here or get that Thresh locked in. It's going to be a pivot either way.
Yeah, I think Thresh makes more sense. You'd love to have priority in the jungler here, and LNG would definitely toying that over. But if you let the Thresh go to the other side, I feel like you have a lot less agency for the Aphelios. He kind of has to play a lot more defensive because he doesn't have that extra lantern safety net. But EDG, very quick to lock in. And, you know, we were talking about mid-game agency. This is that in spades. You got two strong laners in the mid and top lane who are going to be able to find priority for you. You have the Diana, who obviously pre-6, not the most impact. But if you keep her stable in the jungle, after that point, you can really take over. So I think EDG definitely feeling like their composition before was a bit too slow.
I mean, they're completely swapping sides here, Aux. LNG like, all right, fine, we're going to go hard scaling for the time being. We've got the Volibear. EDG are just taking a playbook out of what LNG has shown us already. So I love that we're swapping sides here, but I want to know from you what's going to come up next, because for EDG, it feels like you need a bit more engage here to set up and your bottom lane in total.
Yeah, ideally having something that can force engages. Like for the side of LNG last game, we saw the set be very effective in that role. They're going to be looking for, you know, flank angles in this situation. So I think it's pretty important to be able to find those. Interestingly, LNG are the ones who ban away that Tahm Kench. Clearly a little bit concerned about going in the support role. Limited engage is only really the dive that really isn't on the level of something like Leona or a set. But still want to thin that option. Whereas for EDG, I think shutting down those solo lane options is a critical thing. If you can guarantee good lanes for Scout and Flandre, then your bot lane can just chill. You know, we saw that in game one where LNG's bot lane kind of just took it slow. There wasn't too much agency. But I think if EDG can find the momentum on the top side, you're fine to have that be the situation.
As you said, you wanted to see, right? You know, give some agency somewhere, but give control elsewhere. The Ashe being banned away in case EDG want to go all the way through the playbook. But EDG, there's already a Silas ban. For Icon, I mean, Rise always comes to mind here, right? Especially with Aphelios, Thresh. Not going to take it away, though. LeBlanc instead, so happy to leave that one open.
And interesting enough, this is what LNG were banned in that second game in this ban rotation against EDG. It feels very much like we've had kind of the script flick. I can't believe they're going to actually consider the Azir here. Maybe this is just kind of referencing the previous game, but it'd be kind of hilarious if the team's literally just... I mean, they are. They're basically running it back, but on opposite sides. This is mind-blowing, honestly.
We just don't have an Ashe, though, to replicate it, right? Now, we know Lucian wasn't in the last game, but it was game one. So it still comes out of the same playbook, and this is something that is constantly banned and would add a bit more AP damage with the Diana. That's nice for Viper.
Yep, and I actually really like the Nautilus as well. Let's see what they end up committing with this, but this was kind of surprised to me, is that EDG kept picking the Aphelios, and what we often see picked into it is the Ziggs, because you just outrange it, right? Range is such a massive factor, but here, if Aphelios is trying to like auto-attack you, he doesn't get a chance because you're standing 3 screens away throwing bombs towards him. And when that dive comes through from EDG, you just do the alley-oop over the top with the Mega Inferno Bomb to follow through. Now, they will go for that Leona. Obviously, I've talked about how in the lane, it's not that good into Thresh with the disengage potential. But the critical thing to talk about here is that, you know, EDG don't need to play the lane aggressively bot. They just need to find priority. And then Leona still serves as an engage option later in the game. So they have the tools to play with here. Do you see LNG go for that Jayce in the top side for Arley? Does mean that I have another carry on the map and also a bit more sort of range to deal with EDG. But honestly, I really like what EDG have brought to this one. I like the fact that they have this Ziggs coming out against Aphelios, very often seen as a counter. We do need to see early agency from them in this game, you know. The onus that was on LNG in this series is now on EDG, but I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing, because they can very much just play through their solo laners and look on them to be strong. Jiejie has a clear path he can take in order to find success. And for the side of LNG, I will say that having like the Jayce, it's a different lane to the Tahm Kench in the sense that, you know, Tahm Kench is that brick wall. But similarly, if the Jayce is behind, he's going to be useless, right? Yeah. That's the similarity. If he's ahead, can take over the game. And I think for LNG, that's kind of the risk here. If you do start to fall behind, Volibear and Jayce are picks that will just end up being non-factors. So I want to see them doing a little bit at least to contest and shut EDG down. Otherwise, they will be in trouble.
Yeah, make sure that they keep the game at a state where it doesn't run too far from them, right? You talk about agency for EDG. The script has flipped because the whole series long, we've been talking about EDG taking it nice and steady. Game 1, it ran out of control for LNG. EDG got their time and blew them away. But game 2, LNG were able to be proactive and actually bring us to a game number 3, which is where we stand. We stand at a point where EDG now have to be the ones to speed things up. And LNG with the Azir, the Aphelios, they have the option to scale into this game as we do surprisingly go into a game 3. And I'm glad, because for LNG, this series is about securing top 6. For EDG, top 2 with a series win here. It doesn't matter, it didn't matter if it was a 2-0 or a 2-1. For a top 2 security, it just has to be a series win. They move up to 12 with FPX. And then we get the creme de la creme at the end of the week. On the very last day, we get the battle for first between FPX and EDG. That is, of course, if EDG can win this third game. A lot on the line, as I know that people can't see the Colonel, but the Colonel is saying past 30 minutes, you're looking at LNG, baby. So get your KFC in your mouth and start thinking, EDG, how are you going to pull the early game forward? Because, Aux, I want you to walk me through where we should be seeing the attention from Jiejie and what your early game brain's telling you right now.
I think for Jiejie, it's the farm to 6 strategy. He's looking to path up towards that top side. Obviously, the thing with this bot lane of the Ziggs is it's not actually that good at finding priority level 1. You get a lot better when you got a couple of levels in your bomb, when you get, maybe a fist back to buy some extra mana. So he's going towards the top side where he has Scout, who's in a really comfortable position to move, where he has the Renekton, who, the first wave can get pushed in by Arle, but then the bounce back comes and Renekton feels comfortable at level 3. So Jiejie is just playing that survival game. He has been tracked, he has been spotted, so he has to be aware of that. But for the most part, if he can avoid Tarzan where possible, he's going to be comfortable. And for me, I think this game is actually going to be a big test for LNG, because I think we've said EDG can be a bit of a versatile team. We have seen them comfortable playing through various different lanes. But for LNG, their main focus at the start of the split was playing through Tarzan. And we're now in a position where this isn't a comp where you play through Tarzan. This is where Tarzan needs to play through his laners. So if they win here, it's definitely a good sign.
As we talked about at the start, I love you bring that up, because for Tarzan, on the Volibear, you're exactly right. Has to play through the laners here, and already trying to do that with Scout pushed up in the wave. Now, summoners are available. Tarzan not going to be flashing because the Sky Splitter doesn't connect either. And Scout will be able to walk back into the wave. Icon already taking heavy trading, and Tarzan trying to mitigate the fact.
Yeah, I think he wanted to chunk Scout out so he could look for an invade without the mid priority, because top completely being pushed away now. Arle should easily be able to move, but this is a concern because he didn't find anything mid. Scout can move over to help with this. Jiejie is looking to challenge.
It's a Lucian. I mean, blue buff's not going to be given too much here. Aggro is going to reset in a second if it gets pulled out anymore, but Arle's moved down first. Flandre into the choke. Scout's here, though. 3 versus 2 for now. The flash away, but Tarzan's just walked into 3 people. Thanks for the blue buff transfer, mate. That's first blood.
Oh, and it's just a disaster for the side of LNG. Tarzan tries to go for that aggressive play, the invade, and the critical thing was because Scout was able to move and Icon wasn't, it was a 3v2. And now this Diana, I said I wanted to see stable farming, but if you're going to give him 400 gold first blood, if you're going to give him your Raptors, then Jiejie will absolutely take it. But again, you know that Flandre is going to clear up that wave, then move. Top lane very close to move, and obviously the mobility of Renekton means he can dash over the wall. The critical thing was this Azir. Icon wasn't able to help out, and now Jiejie, he takes the Raptors, he gets the first blood, he gets the Scuttle Crab, he's going to go back and clear his jungle. He is in such a good position right now, and this is honestly, it's early days, but it's still looking very rough for LNG to have this Volibear so far behind, because those were the 2 picks that we were talking about, right? Aphelios and Azir are almost always going to be strong in the late game, right? As long as they get some farm, which we very much will see them do so. But Volibear and Jayce, if they fall behind, they probably won't get back into the game ever.
At this point, 0-1 being tracked through the jungle. Note that Tarzan was on a ward at the red side. Jiejie cleaned up Raptors and then dropped it himself, so able to have full vision knowing that the jungler of LNG's bot. So for EDG, hard shoving topside. I mean, Aux, look at this, the wave pushing in and just giving Flandre a bit of priority.
Yeah, and they don't go for the dive here because it's a little bit risky. They don't want to potentially mess it up. The critical thing is it allows Flandre to push the wave in. It means that, you know, Ale is just going to clear it. Both are going to get to reset. And it means Flandre is never exposed, never in a difficult position. So I like the play from Jiejie. I like the fact that they know we don't have to go for a bit of a coin flip play. We can go for the sort of the more EDG play, the more standard, steady advantage. And Tarzan will take this opportunity to steal away these Raptors and equalize in that sense. But again, I don't think Jiejie is too concerned. His Krugs are up and available, and his Wolves have already started respawn.
So we wait for the next play of action. Tarzan doing it again. Sky Splitter, thanks for another leash, man. I mean, that's 2 leashes he's given. What a guy. You know, Tarzan obviously has feelings. He has feelings towards Viper. He says, man, it's your team. You know, I miss you. And Meiko's kind of helping out with this as well. Just making sure that Tarzan's not still in the enemy jungle. Starting to roam nice and early. And now that EDG have the opposite win cons, I guess, Aux, we should be talking about first Dragon, first Herald, how they use these lane priorities to start getting the map moving faster.
Yeah, I think if EDG start picking up dragons, and especially, here's a big pivotal thing, that first dragon is Cloud, which means, importantly, we're not getting another Cloud Soul. So there's actually a lot to gain from trying to secure this early one. And I would like to see EDG look to play towards that. But then again, if LNG find a window, they obviously can. The critical thing is I talked about this bot lane, how LNG had priority early. And you really need Viper to get some mana and points in his queue. He's now at that point. He's got 3 points queue. He's got Lost Chapter. He can just endlessly shove waves. And do you see?
Is it going to happen? Is it going to happen? He's in. He's all in. Ulti doesn't push him to the turret. Icon's out of there. Scout was trying to bait. I'm not sure if he knew about the ward over the wall, but Scout was trying to bait with the back there, Aux, and I like that Jiejie was always going to make the play.
Yeah, he was in position to try and make that happen. And you could take this window with mid lane chunked out. You could go for the dragon. But instead, it looks like once more Jiejie is trying to play for his top laner, make sure Flandre is in a good position. And we'll just move up there to clear up his romp and also make sure that no dive shenanigans are going to come through.
I hope so here with junglers both permitting to the back as well. Or rather, just Tarzan. Still sitting up here. Flandre has dominance available, guys. No flash available. Ale has his. And has just hit level 7 with a big wave coming in. Should be a lot of lifesteal here as Jiejie now finds out Tarzan's in the brush, but Moonfall's available. Tarzan doesn't have Stormbringer. Will Jiejie commit? Flash is available, remember. He follows on in on top of Tarzan. Flandre getting in range, and there you go. Crescent Strike down. Ale with another Shock Blast combo, but he can't do anything to save the day.
Really nice play, and LNG should have been aware. If you actually look on the bot side, there's a control ward on the red buff, and leading up to that play, they actually pinged it. They question mark pinged it. They're like, where is Tarzan? Why isn't he at his red? Right? And you have the Scuttle Crab taken on the bot side, so you should know he's not there. You should assume he's top side, and Tarzan, he's stuck around. The dive wasn't going to happen, but still he overstayed and he got punished. And now it's a 2-0 Diana already this early in the game. There's a 700 gold lead between junglers. It's not the start you want for a Volibear.
I mean, Tarzan giveth and Tarzan taketh away. Game 2, Tarzan had an exceptional performance. It's kind of like how I feel with JDG. When Kanavi's having a bad performance in JDG, I think, man, this team kind of average. When I look at LNG and Tarzan's not having the greatest performance, I think, man, this team kind of average. Maybe in a less average way than JDG, because JDG this split have been pretty... LNG have been a much better story. We've had Icon step up, Ale step up, you know, Light and Lwandy, I'm glad they're back in the bottom lane. I think they've had a very good laning phase. But you're kind of seeing the early levels here. Tarzan struggling against a comp that loves momentum. A Diana with 2-0 start that already has the Hextech Alternator and Blasting one. I mean, that Proto Belt is going to be here very shortly for Jiejie, and Herald's up too. So we have to look at how strong he is and how EDG can use that to their advantage.
Yeah, and I mean, the deficit for Tarzan now is really rough. Like we said, this is a test for LNG. This is a comp where LNG want to play through their lanes and make that work. And instead, we've seen Tarzan with these invades getting challenged, getting shut down anytime he hangs near a lane. And he hasn't had a successful gank yet. He tried mid, didn't work. Was there top ready, again, didn't work. And it's kind of just put him on the back foot now. This Volibear is going to struggle to sort of have any relevance as this game goes on. And it's just going to bleed out because now Jayce is in a really strong spot. He has the Herald. He can just go top and lean that there. They can look for a dive. Arle's in not the best position,
spotted.
actually.
And he's spotted out as well. He's trying to kite around the bush. Flandre's done enough damage that Jiejie can just fly in the Moonfall, flashed away from the Crescent Strike. Would have sealed the deal anyway. And now that Herald's up here, I mean, do you even have to drop it?
I mean, I think you can just take plates for now and hold on to it for later. You're zoning him off, and now Icon.
Run away, culling there, flashes in the end. Tarzan can't save this. This is more than a disaster.
And this is EDG heavily playing through that top side. And what can LNG do? Well, we look towards the bot lane. There's a Ziggs, right? He's not even in lane, and he can just throw his ult and clear the wave if he really wants to. There's very little that LNG can do to counteract this. And the thing is, they're not strong on the top side of the map right now, you know? We saw Flandre just able to charge onto Arle, burn his summoners. We saw Jiejie super strong, super threatening. So LNG will take that dragon, but it's not exactly an even trade, right? You're losing out on wave after wave top lane. You can see Arle still zoned off. You can see more plates being taken. It's now a 500 gold lead between these top laners, just on the back of Jiejie being so strong and leaning up there to apply that pressure.
It's massive, right? That last plate close to falling as Arle rejoins the top wave. But Jiejie is a busy boy this game. Now that he's cleared out some of his camps, thinking about where to go next, pinging up, down, left, right, will be top side that he ends up going to. We just have to wait and see for timing in the wave as Flandre is pushing for the time being. And Arle is rejoined back in the wave. So he's going to farm for now, but we just got to keep an eye on that Herald and how it opens up the game further for EDG.
I mean, they could just throw it down top and get the first tower if they wanted to. It's not necessarily needed. They could also put it mid. They could, we talked a little bit about that before in the Azir. Very hard to take the tier 1 against him. So a solid option can be you throw it mid, you take 2 plates, and then the second Herald is enough to secure it. I think that's the thing, is that the options are being kept open here. And it depends. Do they want gold now? Or do they want sort of the structural advantage on the map? And I think we might see them lean towards the gold now, but who really knows? Because we do see Jiejie running mid at the moment.
Viper pushing bottom lane. Turret plating not given over. He wasn't in range. Didn't want to push up for it either. I want to point out while we're talking about EDG's gold in this game, Aux, Light has been balancing it well. The reason that it's not a 1k gold lead, a 1.5k gold lead, Light has 1,000 gold over Viper. And you talked about the stability of Ziggs, but we also have to remember Aphelios getting early plating is always a good news story. And he has actually had a pretty decent laning phase because of the Ziggs, because of the fact it's been quiet down there.
Yeah, I mean, there hasn't been too much interaction, and he is going to be a major target for EDG to shut down now. Oh, this might be an overstep.
Maybe not the time. Pale Cascade. Jiejie caught out the Protobelt to get away, but the bear comes down. Revenge is best served like a bear in a honey tree. Tarzan going to be traded off, though, as Flandre now has to deal with 2 people. Range not in his favor. It's a Renekton versus a guy with a hammer and an old wizard with a staff. Scout's joining the play, though. He's waiting for Meiko, though. His ult doesn't connect.
Ooh,
no! Flashes for the culling. Scout, that was gorgeous. And the rest of EDG revel in his success.
Oh, Scout just completely outplays Icon there. Dashes, dips away, dodges the Emperor's Divide, takes them out, and they get Arle too. That looked like the turnaround play for LNG. It's like, finally, you shut down the Diana. This is a great position to be in, but then the answer comes through in a really strong play from Scout. And now in the bot lane, you know, this wave just gets thin, just gets absolutely decimated. And Viper has TP, so he's going to be able to come back in and defend it if needs be, because he is out of mana. And on the top side, that is first tower being taken by Scout. Jiejie runs straight mid to use the Herald, and this should get the charge off. They can't really kill it quick enough.
Okay.
That's 2 plates going down towards Jiejie, and now it's in Herald range, right? Next Herald is going to be enough to kill it if they want it.
Let's watch this again, though, because this looked real bad for EDG, and I just love that the Scout's moving up once again alongside Flandre.
Yep. Yeah, and we also have the follow-up there for Meiko as well. But, I mean, just this outplay is just... I mean, Icon tries to find the window. They're like, we can take this Lucian, but he dashes out of the Emperor's Divide, moves back forward, flashes to keep the culling going. And even though Lwandy's there, it's a little bit too late, and now they're finding more.
We're doing it again. The dance with pants. Thank God they got pants on. Arle's going to drop down. Another kill over to Jiejie. 6-1 Orcs. It's a 3k gold lead in 14 minutes. I mean, this is like watching LNG from game 2. EDG giving them a taste of their own medicine as Lwandy's too deep for a ward. Thanks for the Hexed explosives. Viper with no ulti, a bouncing bomb though. No solar flare needed. We'll call that a snipe anyway.
And I mean, EDG are just putting the momentum on. This is what you need with this comp. As you said, LNG did this game too. You find the momentum and you just keep applying in that mid game. And the critical issue is, yes, light is strong. Yes, Icon's doing okay in terms of farm, but the top and jungle are feeling useless at this point. We have a 1,500 gold lead in both of those lanes, right? It's a 5,000 gold lead overall right now. LNG on a really rough spot.
Really rough spot.
Viper.
Trying to take it out on Viper. But Viper has a flash. He's over the wall. He's safe for now. Just looking for options in this map.
I think Viper got a bit antsy there. Was kind of border just wave clearing, trying to go for some play on the light, but it didn't really have the support. But again, as you said, it's just a flash burn. He's not really too concerned about that. And it's this top side of the map, and Scout now has snowballed massively in his favor. He picked up those kills on that last fight. He got the solo first tower gold. This Lucian is incredibly strong, and it's another one of those champions who, when it snowballs, feels really hard to deal with. It has the mobility with that gold. It now has the damage as well. And I think LNG are in for a bit of a rough one. I do want to see EDG prioritize this dragon though, right? We know it's going to be an Infernal Soul or an Ocean Soul. If it's an Infernal Soul in particular, that is game winning. So I want you to start stacking those up, right? LNG only have one. You want to keep that over LNG's head as a threat, because if it goes late, the Infernal Soul is actually something that can keep scaling a little bit more in your favor for longer.
This is cheeky of Ale, though. Just a bit of a tangent. Ale's so deep in the enemy jungle, taking away camps, while it must be LNG assuming and knowing that EDG are on this dragon. Light and Lwandy have to be careful. They can't be that deep when everyone from EDG are moving towards bot. But Ale's just giving it... Screw top. He's a jungler now. He's with his people.
Yeah. And I mean, this is technically a cross-map play, because, you know, jungle camps are something you play for. They are something that give you values, getting gold there. And the wave is only now getting pushed in, so we'll be able to answer. Again, you know, I'm not saying this is EDG making a mistake, because I think the right call is to pick up this dragon, but I just like that LNG are finding these windows, and Arle in particular, to at least get something out of this.
As the dragon goes down, as you said, it's going to be an Infernal Soul. Definitely game winning. Feels real good here as... You know, for EDG picking up that mountain as well. I want to pull up something that you said before. When you mentioned Scout as they move over to do the Herald, it looks pretty uncontested at this point. Scout's going up against a team that he is going to shred through. The only person that would have a lot of resistance is the person that's so far behind in the jungle. And sure, you can talk about Thresh, but Thresh, at the end of the day, he's really not that tanky of a champion. Not till he has 2-3 items, and we're talking about support here, so... I feel like as a Lucian that's ahead, you have a team comp you're going against that you're going to do so much work into.
Yeah, I think you think about that game one, and we had that super tanky Tom Kench and the Olaf, and, you know, they were just a brick wall. You just couldn't cut through them. But here, there's no one really who can tank culling and actually survive at the other end, because it will just massacre anyone. So that is such a big threat towards LNG they have to respect. And the fact that he has, you know, his dash, the Gale Force, his flash, very easy to reposition. So it's not like a lantern for my Lwandy will necessarily save you from the culling. And it just allows you to set up pick windows, to set up like poke damage or follow-up threats or find kills in team fights. It gives a lot of options. So this is kind of the transition we've seen for Lucian, because now that with Gale Force being that thing you pick up and Sorelda's Grudge, it is more about that culling, right? The slow coming out from the item, the armor penetration as well means you do play a lot more for your ultimate than Lucian used to. It used to be you were just sort of that, you were like essentially that mobile AD carry. Now you're kind of a bit more like an artillery champion almost, firing that ult down.
And again, talk about the burst that can be inflicted on LNG. With those two items now picked up, there's a lot he can do as Scout sitting in the side lane, just setting up these waves. There's an outer turret on the bottom side, the last outer turret remaining that EDG want to take down. And Viper's moved to the mid lane, so farming up to the next objective. Aux, is there anything else I should, question mark, be expecting? Look at Jiejie. What the? That guy's insane. He went through a death sentence, didn't give a crap about anything, and just took away the scuttle. Third time this game it's been leashed, as Flandre's in solo kill territory. Dominus being used. Yes, Spartacus. Ale running for his life. Flandre with a level lead, and he's got flash available. Watch for the flash for flash play. Is there a W coming through? Flandre with the slice and dice again. But now he's got to run away. It's flash used by Ale in response by Flandre. An Icon on the chase. The old LNG top laner will be able to get away.
Yeah, just try and clear out that wave, but this is LNG trying to go for the cross-map plays.
No.
We actually find him here.
He went back in. I mean, Icon has the Emperor survive. TP being used by EDG. Can he survive? Flandre has healed up so much, but Viper won't be able to save him in time. 1 versus 2, but low health bars on LNG. Viper left on his lonesome. Meiko not there. This Ziggs left out in the open. Satchel charge isn't available to get him over. No again. LNG with 2 big picks and EDG. Bit of a mistake.
Yeah, honestly, just a big misplay, and I love to see this from LNG. You go for the cross-map play. You're not meeting those strong carries head-on. You pick Flandre off, Viper TPs in and get caught, and now the start of the Baron. This might be a risky one, but if they manage to secure it, massive.
Death sentence huge, though, onto Jiejie. Lwandy gets bursted out, though. Remember that culling needs to be used as Meiko gets bursted himself. It's Aphelios on the backline. LNG, though, moonfalled by Jiejie. They manage to get out as the steal for Jiejie. It's easy. He pressed his Q, takes it down. Scout with the culling, flushes over. Light versus Lucian. He's the piercing light for a quadra kill.
Quadra kill for Scout, and they steal away the Baron. LNG get a favorable play, but they aren't able to transition it, and EDG, they're strong enough to challenge, and the fact that that went so wrong is kind of like the nail in the coffin for LNG. An absolute disaster, and it came off them making a positive play, but now 7,000 gold down. Baron in favor of EDG. They're going to take another turret as well. It is looking rough. And remember, LNG needed this series win to lock in that top 6.
No. He dies to Grob. Tarzan. It might have been Viper's damage, but the fans will remember that Tarzan in game number 3 just died to Grob. PvE a bit strong, and I have to say, Tarzan this game, it's going from bad to worse.
He just hasn't been able to make it work. He's just being completely shut down. And the misplays early meant that this Diana was so strong. And we see that strength of the Diana here. He just dives in. Even with the exhaust, they have to respect him so much. And then he gets that smite steal. This was honestly LNG going for a coin flip play. They were hoping that they could just get the Baron and get out. But even if they'd gotten the Baron here, they still would have got decimated. I mean, Scout just flies forward and gets that quadra kill. If you're losing 4 members to get a Baron, it's not a good play. But the fact they also lost the Purple Worm, it's an absolute disaster.
I mean, Jiejie was allowed to just walk in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think a big thing was the Baron was so slow because they don't have that much damage behind them because they've fallen behind. And Lwandy actually put a ton of CC onto Jiejie, but then the CC ended, and then the Baron still hadn't died, and we just saw this Diana walk forward. It's like, hey guys, you doing Baron? You mind if I join in? And I think LNG did mind, but unfortunately they couldn't really do anything to stop him.
And now we're at about a 10k gold lead. As you said, that was the nail in the coffin for sure. EDG, guys. A series end, really worthy of the series itself. It was a coin flip, it was a blast. And we're getting a bit more blood in our final game as well. That's all I could ask for. Inhibitor going to go down mid, but look at EDG. They have the angle on LNG to end this series right here. Into the backline, 3-man moonfall. Jiejie explodes them, doesn't die himself. It's over in a matter of seconds as EDG are left with 1 Icon. Sends Scout to the Nexus, rather the Fountain here. He won't be able to escape, but there's more than enough damage here, Orcs. EDG with a fell swoop will be able to take down this Nexus, blow them up, and lock in top 2 for 2021 summer.
Huge achievement from EDG, locking that top 2. They will obviously have the chance to take first on the last series of the season, on the last day of the season, but just a great performance. And I love the fact that this showed the versatility of EDG. You know, they came in with that composition that lent more into the scaling, into the backline protection. It didn't work in that game too, right? And then they adapted, they switched, they prioritized that early mid pressure, and they made it work. And in fairness, you can definitely point out Tarzan made mistakes that allowed them to capitalize on it, but they still had to be in position to punish, and they did so brilliantly. Jiejie had a really strong game 3. We saw Scout as well, a monster on that Lucian. And I think the big thing as well is the team just knew what to do. They knew what roles they had to play. Viper, who we've been praising throughout the split, didn't do much in that game 3. That's because he didn't need to. He just played the wave clear role, and that's the thing that I think makes EDG so strong. There's so much talent across the board. There's so many lanes they can play through, and everyone's willing to switch into different roles depending on what the team needs. And that's why they really came out ahead in this series. And that's the concern for LNG. They haven't been as versatile, and ever since the meta shifted, they've kind of been in a bit of a rough patch.
They really have. I mean, showing Tarzan in that game 3 when he's in that role. Tarzan wasn't able to do anything. And it hurts watching a player like that, you know, invade blue early. Mid pro is not there. Scout's able to create numbers. You're asking yourself, well, why did Tarzan make the play? He set himself up for failure. And it does feel like that game 3 is largely on the head of the jungler, but on the head of LNG when they weren't able to extend the game as they wanted. Like, this was a replication of LNG's game number 2 that EDG just pulled out.
Yeah, and again, I said this would be a big chance for LNG to prove themselves, switching to a different type of comp where Tarzan had to play through the lanes. I mean, you look at the damage. Like, this Volibear was a non-factor. He literally was an absolute non-factor in this game. As soon as he fell behind early, he just couldn't really do anything. RA did his best to stay relevant, but realistically, although the Jayce does a lot of damage, because Jayce just does a lot of damage, he wasn't really enough of a threat, and it felt like they never really found their footing. And I think, you know, they came into this game 3 draft and were like, let's just adapt, let's just match what EDG played. But I think that was a mistake. And I think the big thing is it's kind of just showing some of the issues with LNG. And this is a concern because this team is locked in the playoffs, right? We are definitely going to see them competing there. Of course, you weren't able to lock in one of those higher seeding spots on the back of this, but we are for sure going to see them contesting. But my concern is still, we had such a good early run in the season. And ever since the changes to the meta, it just feels like they haven't really found what they're great at. They haven't really found something that not only fits this meta, but that they are really comfortable playing. And you can see they've tried to play more Tarzan playing through the lanes. But in games like this, it just makes you think, well, it's still not worked really well.
It's not. It's really not. It is concerning, you're right, because for LNG, just talking about their standings, that was the last series, folks. They are playing no more until we get to playoffs. If LNG were able to win that series, they'd lock in top 6. And the reason that's such a big deal, excuse me, is because the fact that top 6 is round 2 and beyond. Round 1 is when you verse unpredictable teams like OMG, Suning. It looks like BLG at this point. I will say with this loss, I mean, Top Esports look like they could beat WE. Therefore, it looks like LNG could be going in that 7th to 10th category. We'll have to wait and see, though, as Jiejie's got an MVP. On the other side, EDG, a 12-3 finish. I mean, MVP number 8. He picked up game 1 and game 3, both wins here, Aux. So I think it's very well deserved when we see that this jungler has been a huge driving force of EDG over the whole summer.
Yeah, and I think particularly a series like this, like we highlighted this matchup, Tarzan against Jiejie. We were thinking this is going to be the one where this one's decided, and really it was. In the games where Tarzan made an impact, which I mean was only that game 2, he was able to really drive his team forwards. But when Jiejie was online, he was just an absolute monster, and the team was just able to follow. And in a lot of these fights, he was the one setting the pace, diving in onto this backline, and we can see that again here. Jumps in, gets all that damage down even though he's exhausted, and then still out on the back of that able to steal away the Baron.
Oh, that Baron still makes me so sad, but yeah, it was a nice steal either way. Watching through the highlights there, Aux, it feels like a pretty sad way for LNG to go in that game 3, but nevertheless, we did see that game 2. We saw, you know, shades of them through this series. LNG, a big question mark for me, as since week 5, every series of theirs has gone to a game 3, no matter what, whether it's a win or a loss. So playoffs, they await. While for EDG, we just have to have a quick talk about how good this team is. 12-3. Aux, they are neck and neck in game differential with FPX. On the weekend, on Sunday, they have a date with the Fun Plus Phoenix. That is literally the battle for first, with winner takes all.
Yeah, and I love the fact it's so dead even. Yep. It literally is who wins that series gets first. There's no other way to spin it at all. It's so simple, and you know that is going to be an absolute banger. And I feel like this is kind of set the stage. These two teams are absolutely on fire. They are, and to see who's the best team in the LPL, we'll have to wait till Sunday, the very last series coming through. We have heard though, Lwandy is standing by with Scout.